morning from 81-degree Phoenix, Arizona. Good morning, Venters. How are you? I hope you guys are having a happy Sunday, getting ready for your football games. Remember, pregame is fun. It's a great way to prepare for all the day's battles, but it's an even better time to go get in your half-hour walk before the games start. Remember, the one time of day when nobody wants to hang out, when nobody wants to do anything, is the morning. That's why it makes the best sense for you to get up and moving. And if you have a breakfast planned with family and friends somewhere out, more than likely, you're not going to have a boring bowl of oatmeal. More than likely, on your weekend out to eat breakfast at a restaurant with family and friends, you're going to eat the bad stuff, the bacon and eggs with toast, right? Give me an extra serving of soda. Give me an extra cube of sugar in my coffee, right? We all go through this. Hey, bring me that extra pancake syrup for these pancakes. Guys, what better way to offset that than with your daily morning walk? And if you and your husband or you and your wife like to eat at the Denny's that's at the end of the neighborhood, do you have to drive there? Is there a chance you guys could enjoy a morning walk that ends at the restaurant? And then when you're done, you walk back home and voila, just like that, you've eliminated a good portion of those calories that you just devoured. So do we have to give up on these special times? Do we have to say no to the pancakes? No, you can actually walk that off. Do you want to say yes to the pancakes all the time? No, because you got to remember our goal is we still want to lose weight. So let me tell you the difference between a venter and somebody that I care about deeply, like my mother. Now, if you guys remember, I told you that my mother had that talk with her doctor. Hey, you need to give up soda. You need to give up these sugars, right? And my mom's the type that the first thing she tries to do is find some sort of loophole or some sort of way away from doing the right thing, right? And doing the alternative thing. So she tries to find little cheats. And I try to explain to her that when it comes to your health, it's kind of like golf. You can lie about your score, but you really got what you got, and you don't want to try to fib when it comes to your health. You got to do things the right way, even when no one's looking. And one of the things that I always tell you venters is that you have to learn to become an army of one when it comes to taking your walk. Is it cool if your husband, wife, or significant other likes to take a walk with you? You darn well bet it is. But here's the problem. What about when they don't want to take a walk with you? My mom's walking partner recently moved, and so she moved away from her. So she has a situation where when she tries to call that walking partner and say, hey, do you want to meet up at the gym and we'll work out together? Now that friend has a lot to do with her new place, right? And she's meeting new people and new friends. So my mom's plan, instead of going by herself and doing her exercises alone like she should be thinking, she's trying to reach out to her friend Diana and her friend, Georgia, and her friend blah, 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 to see if they want to take her walking partner's place. Now, do you see the tough spot that she put herself in there? She put herself into a situation where she associates working out with this social interaction with her friend. And that's what's so cool about walking with people, right? You end up having really fun conversations. But no matter how fun the talk is, you're still going to inevitably have a point where your walking partner doesn't really want to walk on a particular day or even a particular week. They might not even want to walk for a whole month in a row. So if you're tying your success and your health to a walking partner, I'm hoping you can see how there's some pitfalls there. I think the absolute best thing that we can do is get used to walking by ourselves and then invite people to join us. That way, if they do join us, they can see how fun it is. But even if they're not there, you still need to try to see your walk as fun. And by the way, it's funny, what signifies something that's fun for people? Some people only have fun if they're buying something. I used to ask my ex-wife, I'd say, hey, Liz, do you want to go to the mall? And instead of walking outside, like I normally do, we could walk in the mall. And inevitably, her first question would be, well, if I see something I want to buy in the mall, can we buy it? And of course, I would always be like, well, of course, I'm not going to force you not to buy something if you want to buy it. But what I'm talking about is going to the mall with the idea that we're going to walk. And she had just no interest in it. So it's one of those things where it's like, heck, if you have to take your family members shopping just to get them to walk, then it might not be worthwhile to even go that route. You just have to get used to walking alone. But you want to know something? The lonely walks, they don't really feel lonely at all to me. There's something about the sun when it hits your skin, it feels good. Now, don't get me wrong, can it be too hot on occasion? Heck yeah, it can be. As a matter of fact, today, believe it or not, it's supposed to get up to 110 degrees again. This has been the most cruel summer ever because it doesn't want to end. But you want to know something? It's 82 degrees right now or whatever, 81, 82, and it feels nice. So I'm going to take that little victory that at least it's not 110 right now. I believe it's supposed to hit that temperature at about 3 or 4 this afternoon. And that's another thing that's weird. The world keeps subtly changing. For some reason, I remember 2 or 3 in the afternoon always being the hottest part of the day. As a matter of fact, 3 p.m. is considered high noon, right? And for some reason, that has changed this past year or two, where I guess it's hottest, around 4 or 5 in the evening or afternoon because, I guess that's when the sun is just kind of stuck in this bowl that we call the valley. But I feel like things subtly change like that. It used to always be really, really hot around 3, and now that's kind of changed to about 4 or 5. And the reason I remember that being different is because I used to always walk at 4 or 5, and I would always think, well, at least it's not as hot as it was an hour or 2 ago. But apparently that's gone out the door. Remember, there are some advantages to the heat. I feel like when you sweat, even though you're mainly getting rid of water, I feel like when you sweat, it makes you feel like you're kind of earning that calorie burn a little bit more, right? It goes back to that no pain, no gain mentality. I wonder if that saying has a mental effect on people. Maybe as a people, when we hear the term no pain, no gain, maybe it naturally turns us off. Maybe we associate every single thing we do with that torturous no pain, no gain saying, right? Because guys, honestly, good morning, sir, how are you?
Okay, how you doing this morning?
Good, thank you. It's supposed to get hot again today, so I'm walking early. Yeah. When I walk, I don't feel that no pain, no gain sensation or thought. I really don't. When I walk, oh, and by the way, guys, Sean is going on a 22-mile walk this weekend. I think he's going to do 2 11-mile walks each day, I'm assuming. If he does 22 miles in one day, holy moly, Sean, that might be a little excessive. But there's only one way Sean's doing that. I'd be willing to bet that walking 22 miles is a heck of a lot more enjoyable than somebody trying to run 22 miles, right? Now, Ken Wang can run 5-10 miles a pop. Maybe he could run those 22 miles, but again, I think for the average person in our age group, I think you're gonna enjoy walking more. Because, back to what I was saying, I don't feel like it's painful at all. I enjoy my walk so much. Every time I finish a walk, you know, it's weird. There's a piece of me that says, I think I should walk some more. Even when I have work, I just always feel like I should walk some more. Why? Because it's the only exercise where after you do half an hour, you're just ready to get going. That's why it's a great way to use walking to really get you to the point where you want to go to the gym. Sometimes people might hear my words and they might say, oh, Jesse sounds like he's a little bit against the gym. I'm not against the gym at all. I think it's something that you should add to your walk. Because if you're used to walking every day, that's your body working and burning calories every single day. This way, when you go to the gym, believe it or not, you'll actually see faster results that way. They say that after you start walking for 20 minutes, you start to develop a fat burn. So the next time you go to the gym to work out, what better way to warm up than a 20 or 30 minute walk on the treadmill? And again, if you're lucky enough where your gym is only a mile or two away, why not ditch the car, guys, and why not walk to the gym? Remember, the number one problem with walking, it's not like weights where you get injured from lifting weights and you have to rest, right? The number one problem with walking is scheduling it, right? You got to figure a way to put in a half hour to an hour every single day. The best way to do that, once again, boom, knock it out in the morning. The morning is the key. As you get into your day, you make your breakfast, you start to watch TV, you start to make plans with the family, or maybe you're getting ready to do the plans that you've already made. It's so easy to just forget about the walk and throw it out the window. And if you try to do your window after all these major plans, sometimes you're just too pooped and exhausted to want to think about going outside in the heat and busting out your 30-minute walk. That's why I always tell you guys, do it first thing in the morning. So here's an interesting venter's question. About what time of day do you normally embark on your walk? Is it a consistent time? Do you always walk at the same time each day? Is it one of those things where as long as you walk, you feel good, but it's anything but consistent? Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's midday, sometimes it's a combination of morning, midday, and afternoon, or early evening. When are you finding that you enjoy walking? Are any of you guys like me, where it's not uncommon for you to take a second or maybe even occasionally a third walk during the day? Do any of you guys find yourself like me, where if you eat something sweet or you eat a hot dog or something, you know, that's a little excessive on top of your normal meals, are you still feeling guilty, or do you try to find a way to walk it off? I feel a little guilty when I look at a piece of carrot cake or something and I want to take a bite, because I know I'm urging you guys to ditch the sugar. But remember, I'm urging you guys to avoid the sugar. If you still have a little bit every now and then, what's the key? Don't get too angry at yourself where you end up quitting your diet and exercise routine. Think about this. Almost every single time in the past that you stopped diets that you were on, it's because of a cheat meal. You had a cheat meal and you said, you know what? I think I need to lay off on the diet right now. I'm just not ready. I think I need to lay off on the diet right now because, gosh, I'm just too weak. I have no willpower. Guys, if you want to have a piece of cake, the real way to enjoy a piece of cake is to not let it ruin your life. Have a piece of cake and just go right back to your walking routine. As a matter of fact, here's what you can tell yourself while you're on a walk. Because I walk every day, I can have that piece of carrot cake every now and again. It's not gonna kill me. And in case you're in one of those situations where the doctor tells you, avoid these foods, they're gonna kill you, in that case, don't listen to my words. Avoid those darn foods, okay? Your health is so important, and you know, if eating a piece of cake is gonna potentially take your life, stop eating the cake. God bless it. So let's talk about back to the lab again. I've been contemplating the idea today, and this just came to me this morning. I've been contemplating the idea of maybe heading out to the mall with the camera and actually taking a list of potential vents, right? We have weight loss, we have finances, we have relationships, we have government and politics. And I'm thinking about taking a list of a handful of vents. So we don't have a million random vents, but just a handful of vents. And I'm thinking about going to the mall and seeing if I can get some people to just kind of give me a little vent for a minute or two about what kind of things irk them about their daily lives. It's a little scary, a little intimidating. It's something that I'm contemplating doing. I'm also contemplating some other fun things as well. That's one of those things that came to me on my walks. My walks, and I've been doing them for decades now, but I started noticing really quickly that I come up with little fun ideas when I'm on my walk. Why do I mention this? Well, the reason I mention this is because I have a funny inkling that a lot of you guys are gonna start getting those same thoughts if you haven't already. You know, it's funny, maybe that's why Sean and Mala and Lily, maybe that's why you guys are addicted to your walk, because maybe you notice the same thing. Maybe you notice that when you're out and about on your path, you think of weird, interesting things. Don't poo-poo those weird, interesting thoughts. You might be able to apply some of them into your life, and it might make something fun out of your life. Now, I don't know exactly where I'm going with this thought, but the point is when we're walking, our brain is stimulated and comes up with these really novel, fresh ideas. Now, is it a fresh idea for me to go out and ask people what they're venting about? No, people do that all the time on videos where they go and put a mic in their face and ask them questions, right? But the point is it gets your brain thinking. And that's what I love about walking. You can dive into your think tank and you can tackle any problem under the sun. And every single problem that we normally tackle, we normally come up with, with routine ways of tackling them. But when your brain's on another level and your ideas and your blood is just moving through your body, all of a sudden you'll come up with this idea that I'm telling you, you never would have thought of otherwise. So I urge you, if you haven't taken a walk yet, but you're watching the show, there's absolutely no reason to watch somebody else walk. You need to put your shoes on and you need to get out here. It's really something that you're gonna love. So that would be another venter question I have for you. Are you glad, looking back, that you decided to go on that first walk, whether it was with me or whether it was before you ever watched our channel? Are you glad that you decided to add that walk in? Because here's the thing, if you're new and you haven't started walking, you have to kind of ask yourself, why are all these people talking about how much they love walking? Why do these people care if I join the walk or not? The reason we care is because whenever something happens in your life that's really easy to add to your life and it's really causing a lot of joy in your life, those are things that you find yourself wanting to share. The opposite applies as well. When you go through horrible things in your life, one of the famous sayings we have is, hey, I wouldn't wish what happened to me. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. What's that mean? That means that honestly, you've gone through something so bad, so horrific, you don't want anybody else to go through that. Well, with walking, it's the exact opposite. I've experienced something so magical and so wonderful and so healthy and so life-changing that I would wish it on my worst enemy. Because you want to know something? If my worst enemy were walking like I am, maybe he or she wouldn't be thinking about horrible things to do to people. And by the way, your worst enemy probably doesn't wake up thinking what horrible things he or she can do to people, okay? A lot of times your worst enemy, he or she might not have any idea that they're even your worst enemy. And they might actually consider themselves to be a good person. They just might not treat you well. So remember, these are other things that happen when we walk. When we walk, we can come down to earth. You know, just because Dale at work, instead of saying good morning, he growls at you, that doesn't necessarily mean that Dale's a jerk. It could be just a bad morning. And remember, he's your supervisor, so when you're not doing well and he or she has to get on you, just remember, when you're not doing well, his supervisor has to get on him. So again, these things happen all the time. We always throw our hands up in the air and say, woe is me, Dale hates me, why am I fat? Is it because Dale's always stressing me out? Maybe we need to just start walking, starting to eliminate the fat, starting to feel better, starting to come up with new, fresh ideas, and maybe the world will start changing. If you want things to change, you have to start with the man in the mirror. And if you can do that, and if you can start changing that man or woman in the mirror, you can really start making this life different. I say different because I don't want to say you can make this life worth living, because I think even if it's miserable, this life is worth living. Not everyone is promised some cushy, easygoing life. And as long as you realize that, I think you'll be better for it. This life is full of challenges. And even if you were the slimmest you could be and the most gorgeous human being ever, you would still have problems. I have a feeling some people, especially if this channel keeps on growing and people of all ages start walking, I have a feeling some people are going to lose weight and then find themselves in a situation where all of a sudden the people they're dating might not necessarily be good for them. Because what happens when people start looking their best? All of a sudden the dating pool starts to get bigger and bigger. People start to want to date you. Sean asked me the other day, he goes, hey Jesse, the world wants to know who's your special someone. Sean, I was dating a friend of mine. I consider her a friend now, but I was considering her a potential girlfriend a couple of years back. But then she moved to California, and then recently she moved back to Arizona, but we never got back into that va-va-va-voom vibe. It's one of those things where when she moved to California, I kind of thought she was moving permanently. So even though she's back in Arizona and we will occasionally catch a movie or go out to eat, and believe it or not, she's a venter, but I don't know if she's a venter that watches all the time or not. But basically, really pretty woman, very cool. I would have probably been her boyfriend by now if she would have never moved. But again, sometimes you move and you realize, hey, do I absolutely miss this person enough where I need them to move back, or where I need to move where they are? And honestly, if you don't get that tug in your heart, it's probably not meant to be. I hope that makes sense. So right now your boy is completely single, but you want to know something? I need to improve myself and get myself to a certain level where I can bring somebody else into my life. At this point, I think I'd like to find a woman that enjoys walking with me. Why? Well, this camera's 35 years old, so I need a woman that's strong so she can hold this camera. Also, I like to walk forward, so I need a woman that can hold the camera steady while walking backwards. It's challenging, but if you pray for me, I might just find that person, you know? So here's my question to all women out there. Are you capable of walking like this while holding a camera, you know, so it keeps me in focus? So if you guys can do that, let me know down in the comments. I'm one of these guys that I kind of wish life was the way it used to be, where you would meet people in public, where you would meet people through friends. Nowadays, you have to meet people through dating apps. I noticed one thing about the Facebook dating, because I haven't really been messing with it the last couple of months, but at first when it came out, I was. Facebook dating is where you can literally potentially date people in your area through Facebook, right? The one thing I noticed about it is when I'm not on it for X amount of days, it'll send me a message and it'll say, hey, we stopped sending your profile out to other people because you haven't been active. Well, you guys know what that means? That means that when you find somebody, it's because they're active. That means they're constantly on that little part of Facebook looking at potential people to date. Well, I don't know about you guys, but to me, that sounds like an immediate red flag right out the chute, right? So I might live in a world where maybe the perfect woman for me might not even exist, but I don't believe that because we live in a world where there's almost always someone special for you. The cool thing is if your boy was in his 20s, when I was in my 20s, I saw women as irresistible because, you know, when you're in your 20s, your hormones are still going like crazy and you want to jump on every pretty woman in sight, right? As you get into your 30s and 40s, and now like me, where I'm almost pushing 50, you get to a point where things other than looks are super important, you know? I don't want to date somebody that's going to make me feel miserable. I've noticed in this world that a lot of times people do date people that make them miserable. And it makes you wonder, why do they go through that trouble? I've had partners in my life, plural. I have 2 women that have had children of mine. I was married at one time for 9 years. I've been in relationships both short and long term. And I think I've come to a point in my life where I just don't like to force things and I don't like to rush things. So if I ever meet somebody special, I'm single and I'm able to take it to that next level. But at the same time, I don't feel like the people in our age group are worth rushing for. I hope that makes sense. You know, when someone's in their 20s, it's like, wow, I better gobble up this babe before somebody else does. When you're dealing with somebody in their 40s or 50s, it's more like, God, I wonder how many people have been with this person. You know what I mean? One of those things. Some people, they, especially when they're young, they can be with anybody. Man, I never understood that then, and I can't understand that now. I used to have buddies that would have 3 or 4 girlfriends at a time, and I would always think to myself, is there really that much enjoyment in having that many people to choose from? Because here's what happens. You have 4 people that you're attracted to. Isn't it natural that you're going to end up finding the one person out of the 4 that you really gravitate towards the most? And then usually that person that you're into the most, they're not necessarily into you at that same level. So you have a situation where it's not as easy to connect as you think it would be. Is it easy to connect with people and go on dates and stuff? Yeah, that's not necessarily challenging. The challenge is, how can you meet somebody that really counts and matters? That's where the challenge lies. So if you want to find somebody while they're at their best, I think to become equally yoked, you've got to be willing to become your best. And that's why I walk. And that's why you walk too. I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow.